quiet so that I can stay on task here. My name's Elaine Lucas, and I teach health sciences here at Spoon. Today I'm going to take you through my journey of how I got here. One filled with twists, awkward phases, family stories, and one very poorly thought out plan to marry a rich Greek guy. The title of my presentation is Aimless Ambition, Coasting Through Life Like a Fart in the Wind. No ChatGPT was harmed in the making of that brilliance. I came up with that all on my own. Jamie did this in her presentation. I thought it was pretty fun, the two truths and a lie. So I'm going to go through it really quick so I don't waste too much time. But I'm going to put up 3 statements. You can read through them quickly, and then you guys can decide which one you think the lie is. There's a couple individuals being mentioned here. If you don't know them, just hang tight and you'll find out who they are.
Why do I feel like it's
Okay. Which one would you guess is the lie?
number 3?
Number 3? 2? 2? Yeah. Based on, the theme of these presentations, you guys should probably figure out pretty well. But anyway, I'll go ahead and go through these real quick. All right, number 1 says, Kirk Heinrich once hit on me at a bar. This was true. I was back home from college for a summer. Back when I was 21, I went to like a local Chicago suburb bar, and he was there. I went to go get a drink. He started talking to me. I quickly realized that I did not appreciate his approach, so I became disinterested and kind of brushed him off. He wasn't really happy with how I reacted. I had no clue who he was. He was in the NBA from 2003 to about 2015, and this was in 2003, so he would have been a rookie. And someone told me shortly after who he was, and I still didn't care because I didn't think he was good. Number 2, I was a straight A student throughout my entire academic career. That is, in fact, the lie, and again, the basis of this presentation, so we'll touch on that a little bit more. And yes, I did hang out with Sean Paul at his concert after party. If you don't know who he is, he's a Jamaican Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, producer. This was back in the day when we had to use digital cameras to take selfies, so you had to turn them around, which is why my face is cut off in both of those. So anyway, not very cute. But anyway, some fun facts about me. Now my story really starts with my parents. They both grew up in a small remote village in Greece. Sorry. So this is titled The American Dream Built on Their Sacrifice. They both grew up in a small remote village in Greece. No electricity or running water well into their childhood. Just long days, hard work, and incredibly humble beginnings. And both with only a grade school education. My dad had it exceptionally rough. His father fought in both World War II and the Greek Civil War. After the war, when he returned home, my dad's mother passed away. He was only 1 year old. My grandfather eventually remarried and had more children, but my dad's childhood was shaped by loss, responsibility, and resilience. My mom came back to the U.S. in 1967. So this is my dad, this is his mom and his dad, and then this is my mom with her family, and this photo was taken right before they immigrated to the U.S. when she was 14 years old. Imagine showing up to school and being placed in kindergarten because you couldn't speak, read, or write in English. That was her reality. After a year of that, she didn't see a way forward in high school, so she told the school she was going back to Greece just to avoid enrolling. So at 15, she somehow managed to enroll into beauty school and took on whatever job she could find. She slowly adapted. As you can see, her hair got lighter, her skirt got shorter, and she slowly started becoming more American. Then, at 19, she actually did go back to Greece simply to visit family. As they were getting ready to leave, a family member convinced my mom to cancel her flight back home just so she could meet my dad. He actually was being courted at the time by several women from around the world, which is no surprise because, as you can see here, he was quite the smoke show. 3 weeks later, they got married. Then moved to the U.S. My dad, at the age of 27, never been to the U.S., could not speak, read, or write English as well, and taught himself how to do all that in order to be able to take the citizenship test. So shortly after they got married, they came to the United States, they got pregnant with their first child, and they both took their citizenship test and became citizens. Shortly after, they became citizens. They worked so hard to build a solid middle-class life from the ground up in a foreign land. So then they had my brothers and I when they got here, making us first-generation Americans. All right. So, the Greek tragedy, turning awkward into an Olympic sport since 1983. I was born in Chicago on October 3rd, 1983, as Elaine Karyophilas. My Greek name was Elaine Karyophilas. To no surprise, English wasn't my first language, and I didn't learn to speak English until I went to preschool when I was 4 years old. Also, I was painfully shy. I know that's a huge surprise since most of you know me as assertive, opinionated, and loud. I adored our Greek culture growing up. The food, the dancing, the language, and I love how immersed we were in it. My family was so fortunate to be able to continue their cultural customs in the US, but at the same time, I just wanted to blend in. I remember dreaming about having blonde hair and doing normal American kid stuff. While my friends were in Girl Scouts and sports, I was at Greek school several nights a week from kindergarten to first grade, and that set me apart from my peers. My parents still attempted to put me in extracurriculars, but they never worked out because of scheduling conflicts. American school was going okay at the time, and to no surprise, I was actually excelling in Greek school because of the educational support that my parents were able to provide me when I was there. And so these are some photos of me in Greek school, Greek traditional dress, my allocates in Greek school, but never got any of those in regular school. My parents had one mission: to give me and my brothers everything they never had, to shield us from pain, stress, disappointment. They wanted our lives to be as easy as possible because theirs weren't. If that meant we would live for them forever, even better. Greeks thrive on multi-generational living. But growing up, I also became their helper, handling paperwork, appointments, anything difficult due to the language barrier. Again, another thing that I think has contributed to my type A personality. Also the fact that immigrants really have like a day-to-day mentality. Like they do not plan for the future. My dad and mom would always say, let's just see how everything is tomorrow, make sure we're okay. And another thing that they always said was that it could always be worse. All right, so, also shout out to my mom's beauty school days. You can thank her for some of these really questionable haircuts that I had as a child, so. Yeah, that was a product of that. Okay, junior high, enter the awkward years. A sprinkle of a little bullying, topped with strict parents who didn't let me do what the American kids were doing. Once again, setting me apart from my peers. I graduated from Greek school in 6th grade and was finally able to join extracurriculars. But by then, I already felt behind. Meanwhile, school was getting harder and I was starting to feel the pressure, but had no idea how to respond to it. Here's a couple photos of me, doing the American things, looking semi-normal, but truly I was just kind of awkward, nerdy kid here with braces and frizzy hair. I also attempted to do track. Olive cheese, ocean breeze, and pieces of me. I went to Greece the summer before high school in 1997 for the first time with my mom, and it changed everything. I saw where my parents grew up, the dirt roads, the tiny homes, the lack of basic comforts. No air conditioning, indoor plumbing, cable, internet, fast food, none of that when I was there as a 14-year-old. They never made a big deal about their hardships or complaint, but standing there, it finally all clicked. I met my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins for the first time on my dad's side, and I came home deeply humbled with what I felt was like a new piece to my puzzle. I went back again in 2010 with my husband, and then again in 2013 to surprise my dad while he was vacationing there. That trip was so special to me because he wasn't expecting me to be there, and it was the first time I had joined 3 generations of family on my father's side together. It was also the last time I would see my grandfather. These pictures you're seeing up here are from that specific trip in 2013 and are some of my most treasured memories. So this is the tiny village that my parents come from, about 200 people. They are goat and sheep herders, so this is what you see here. They also have olive groves, so that's what you see here. Again, this was the last time I would see my grandfather. This is my dad over here with the village in the background. This is my step-grandmother, and this is just a photo of my uncle that I took with his dog while we were out goat herding, and I just thought it was really neat. So that was a very, very special trip for me. And again, anytime I ever went to Greece, I was always humbled by that life. Okay, high school, coasting on empty. School was still hard and only getting harder. I maybe wasn't as awkward here, but I wasn't the coolest either. I tried basketball freshman year, and let's just say that was the end of my athletic career and extracurriculars. I ended up working at a grocery store all through high school, and this is what I mean when I say I was always ambitious. I was always applying myself to something, even if my efforts were aimless. I wasn't lazy, but I didn't have any direction, which is why I felt like a fart in the wind. Education and extracurriculars weren't really emphasized in our home because of my parents' lack of experience. So I had no roadmap, no guidance, and no real motivation to try harder. I just kind of coasted through it, disconnected, disinterested, disassociated. Honestly, disassociated is the best way I could explain my educational experience. I don't ever remember doing homework. I don't ever remember reading any books. I don't really recall a whole lot of my education. My ACT score, let's just say my dream school was like, no thanks. So I landed at Western Illinois University. I don't know what that says about that, but anyway. And honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anything about the school. Location, size, cost, what it had to offer. All I knew was that 20 of my high school friends were going there, so at least I wouldn't be alone. To say that my parents were shocked when they dropped me off was an understatement. Being nearly 4 hours away from home in this rural community was not what they expected for their precious little Greek girl. Nonetheless, they went along with it and had no expectations. As long as I was happy, they were happy. So, plan A, go to college, have fun, wing it. Plan B, marry a rich Greek guy or move back home forever. Spoiler alert, I eventually found a plan C. I don't know if anybody recognizes what that sound bite's from. Jersey Shore? Jersey Shore, Snooki. Anyway, the college years. Majoring in fun, minoring in attendance from 2002 to 2007. Welcome to the apple bottom jeans, drop it like it's hot, from the window to the wall, get low era. These knees used to drop it like it's hot, now all they can do is squat like it's warm. I started off as an English major, which was kind of ironic, right? But it was the one subject I was actually kind of semi-good at in school. And wow, did that end up being rough. I mean, all the reading, all the writing, all the books. I was not used to that type of academic rigor. So I then switched to hospitality because it felt familiar with my family's background in the restaurant business. But it quickly became clear that burnout in that field was a real thing after a summer-long internship that I did. One thing was for sure though, I was having a lot of fun when I was in college. I was always up to some shenanigans with my friends. The fishnet top and the snakeskin purse kind of defined that generation, I guess you would say. Anyway, yes, these were probably the most PG photos that I could find. Eventually, I pivoted to dietetics because it was in the same department, so essentially nutrition. So I wouldn't have to start completely over. I figured maybe I could turn my love for food into a career. But still, I didn't know how to ask for help, and I was still struggling. Until one professor, Dr. Greathouse, gave me the reality check that I desperately needed. She told me my GPA was not going to get me anywhere in the competitive field of dietetics, and if I wanted to have any chance, I needed to get my ass in gear. After I got over the initial trauma of the conversation and lots of tears, I knew she was right. However, I was still letting the good times roll. Funny enough, I recently ran into her. Life has a funny way of circling back like that. And I was able to tell her about how truly impactful that interaction was in my life. We had a good laugh as well about it because she didn't remember being so harsh, but anyway, I told her it was ultimately a very good thing for me. When party girl meets patriot. So while still I was an undergrad in 2005, I met my husband Jake. He was older, local from Macomb, and a proud patriot. He was so different than any other college guy I had met. Through him, I started to understand things like sacrifice, service, and perspective from all his worldly experience in the military and the harsh things he had seen in several third world countries. I now more deeply understood the testament that freedom isn't free, and that mindset completely reframed my outlook on life and reinforced that it could always be worse, just like my parents had always mentally instilled in me, rightfully so. I also soon realized that because of people like Jake protecting our freedom, immigrants like my parents were able to build something beautiful here, and that we can sometimes be naive and take for granted how good we actually have it. It was a full circle moment for me. Even still, I wasn't necessarily thriving. I, of course, didn't get the internship I needed and that I had hoped for in order to move forward in dietetics. Again, not a shock. My efforts had been too little, too late. And when Jake got a big boy job at Macomb Fire Department as a firefighter, and it was time to grow up, I said, okay, I'm just gonna have to find a job, and then I guess I'll just keep going to school. So I enrolled in grad school at WIU. This is where I went from barely passing to finally overachieving. Jake and I got married in 2008, and we had a big fat Greek wedding. It was one for the books. Oh, which reminds me why I included this photo. I just think it's kind of like reminds me of like a mob scene out of Godfather, the way that we're all looking at the camera. No one's smiling except me, and it's black and white. So anyway, it's kind of funny. All right. I was working full-time, making minimum wage as a catering manager at the local hospital, taking night classes for grad school. It was miserable because my shift was at 5:30 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. and then I had classes from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., which literally made for the longest days ever. I knew there had to be another way, so I applied for and landed an assistantship that changed everything. It paid for school, gave me a monthly stipend, but more importantly, it helped me find purpose. For the first time, I was truly immersed and committed to my education. And what do you know? I was actually doing really well. Also, like many of my colleagues have said, if you can find someone to pay for school, do it. For my assistantship, I worked at the University Counseling Center at Western. And one of my tasks was teaching life and study skills to college students. And something finally clicked for me. I realized that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to help young adults like you figure out life and not just school. That seed to become a health educator was planted. I continued my assistantship, also did an internship at the hospital, also started teaching adjunct classes at Spoon River College, all while trying to finish my degree. As graduation neared, I find myself seriously considering a PhD. So I went from D's to doctorate dreams, especially if my ultimate goal was going to be to teach at the college level. In Macomb, that essentially meant aiming for a position at WIU. We were rooted here because of Jake's job, so WIU felt like my best shot. The top health education PhD program was actually in Illinois, in Southern Illinois University, but it was 4 hours away. To go there, I'd have to leave my brand new husband behind. My gut kept telling me, don't do it. But I couldn't see another path forward, so I pushed ahead anyway. Somehow, almost unbelievably, I got in. The girl who had struggled all through school and had been accepted into a PhD program with a paid assistantship, no less. But deep down, I was scared, I lost a lot of sleep, and I cried many tears over this decision. How could getting more schooling feel so wrong? I honestly didn't believe our marriage could withstand the strain, especially so early on, because Jake's unorthodox work schedule and the physical and mental strain that his job already has on top of the workload of getting an advanced degree, being 4 hours away. Still, I felt boxed in. What else was there? Then, like a sign, a full-time position opened at SRC the very semester I was finishing my master's degree. I had already been teaching there as an adjunct, and I felt no hesitation. In my heart, I knew I'd be honored to stay. I interviewed and then endured the longest 2 weeks of my life, convinced I had completely bombed the interview. I cried nearly every night waiting for the outcome. I used to cry a lot. During that time, I turned to one of my greatest mentors in grad school, Dr. Jamie Johnson, a brilliant and accomplished man who also attended SIU and whose credentials seemed endless. To my surprise, the man who helped me get into SIU encouraged me to take the position at SRC over working on my PhD if I was offered the job. And somehow that made all the difference in my decision. Step 1, struggle through school. Step 2, teach everyone. And then I got the job. I was stunned, grateful of course, but genuinely shocked to have been chosen over several other highly qualified candidates. For the first time, my gut told me with absolute clarity that this is where I was meant to be. It wasn't easy to withdraw my acceptance and assistantship from SIU. I worried I was burning bridges I worked so hard to build, but deep down I knew I had to follow where this opportunity was leading me and trust that it would unfold the way it was meant to. And it did, and I've been in love ever since. And for the first time, I felt like I was truly connecting with real people. I wasn't just teaching, I was helping students figure out how to live, how to grow, how to navigate the world that often feels overwhelming at an institution that truly values their community, their students, and their employees. For the first time in a long time, I felt grounded. I felt like I had purpose. I felt like I finally succeeded. Everything my parents had sacrificed to build their American dream finally came to fruition. Don't get me wrong, there were times that dream felt like a living nightmare. My parents and family have been through a lot of terrible times, but their strength is a testament to the resiliency that they were equipped with from an early age. So, I have been teaching here for 15 years. I have made many wonderful memories, worked with some very phenomenal people, colleagues. I felt like my life had, come full circle at this point. From a shy little Greek girl with a bad haircut and dreams of being blonde to a woman who now helps guide others through life. The journey has been confusing, delayed, awkward, but incredibly meaningful. So what I hope that you can take from this, sorry, I didn't realize the writing was so small. Everyone's path looks different, and success doesn't always come quick or easy. I hope part of my story will remind you that it's okay to struggle, because that's often where the growth happens. Your beginning doesn't define your finish. It just proves you had the courage to start. You don't have to have it all figured out, just don't give up on figuring it out. A Marine Corps saying, adapt and overcome. When you face adversity and you learn to adapt to that adversity and overcome it, that is when you build resilience and strength. Fake it till you make it. So many of my colleagues have said that in their presentation. It is so true. You will find yourself fake it until you make it at some point or another. Listen to your gut, and just know that you never know whose journey you're impacting and who's impacting yours. So make sure you're building connections in every phase of your life. This is my little family. My husband and I with our son Dylan. He's almost 11 years old. These pictures are a great reflection of his personality. He loves athletics. He's very active. This is our little pocket tuggle Zoe, who's never missed a meal. She's really sweet. My husband Jake's also a great testament to SRC, because when he came back from the military, he knew that he wasn't ready to pursue education at a big university. So he came to Spoon as he was adjusting to civilian life and started taking classes. And he often tells me about how the small classes and the personal instructors were vital in helping him learn how to re-navigate his education. So he later transferred to WIU, more prepared, and graduated cum laude, after also not doing well in school through most of his life. In hindsight, a community college like SRC would have been more ideal for me, especially with the resources that we have. However, I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for the struggles I endured. So I am a true believer in what is meant to be will be. Thank you all for sharing and taking the time to listen to my story. It means more than I can say. Sharing the road that brought me here has reminded me of how far I've come and how grateful I am for every step. I hope something in it resonated with you, even in a small way. I hope that you carry that with you, because you all have a story and every one of them matters. Thank you again for being part of mine today, and thank you for riding the wind.